Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and welcome to the Orlando District 2023 Flight Instructor of the Year Awards ceremony and the ceremony for the Larry Enlow Award. It is also the 30th year reunion of the CFIs of the Year from the Orlando District, and I will be pleased to introduce many of those award recipients later in this afternoon. So our meal is being served now, so please go ahead and begin eating. That little thing in the plastic wrapper in front of you is not a Christmas tree ornament. It's not a medallion to hang on your necklace. It is a cookie for you to take home or enjoy as part of dessert. So it is a very nice thing, and that's what we have for you today. So I'm pleased to make some opening remarks and welcome some folks here. So first of all, this event could not happen without some sponsors who have contributed money to the organization and helped underwrite the cost of this wonderful lunch today. So these include Premier Flight Solutions, and their representative, I don't believe, was able to make it today, unless I haven't met him yet. And also Halliday Aviation from Jacksonville. They're a flight training school, and Meredith and Dana Halliday are the owners and operators of that, and I've had the pleasure of meeting them in the past. And Vision of Flight, and we do have Mike McKenzie here representing Vision of Flight. Mike, thank you for standing up. And thank you to all of the sponsors, of course, for helping make this event possible. So I'm representing, among others, the Florida Aviation Network today, who is putting on this event, and they are a project of the National Aviation Safety Network. And I've listed here the board members and officers of that organization, and you see their fine photos on the screen as well. So if you're one of these fine folks or somehow associated with the National Aviation Safety Foundation, would you please stand just for a moment so we can recognize you? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And also, I don't think you stood, but Bill and Terry Pass, you are an administrative support to the NASF. Thank you very much for your contributions in bookkeeping and the like. It's good to have you with us, of course. So the National Aviation Safety Foundation is a not-for-profit corporation, and donations are always welcome. And so that they do a number of things, the Florida Aviation Network being part of it. Now, of these folks that you see on the screen, and Obi, you need to head this way because you're going to be up in just a moment. Obi Young is like the glue that holds the whole organization together. Many of you, and probably most of you, know Obi Young, and his lovely wife Ramona is here with us as well. Ramona, thank you for loaning us Obi on so many occasions. So, indeed. So, to put together an event like this takes an incredible amount of planning and production and equipment moving in and out and setting up. Obi doesn't do it all by himself. He has some volunteers, but he's the glue that holds it all together, and he's the motivation behind all of us to volunteer for the Florida Aviation Network. He is relentless in his pursuit of aviation safety and bringing videos and broadcasts to the media. And so Obi reminds me of, well, first of all, a little bit about Obi. Yeah, so he's like almost 17,000 hours as a pilot, and you can see 10,000 hours plus as an instructor. Obi is used to flying airplanes right side up and upside down. He was an aerobatic performer for a number of years. His fulfillment, as I mentioned, is helping the Florida Aviation Network bring aviation safety to the world, if you will. And he himself was a National CFI of the Year back in 1978. Obi Young, an accomplished aviator, and also a very energetic person. When I think of Obi, I think of the Energizer Bunny. So my friend Ben Coleman and I were talking about Obi just a few days ago, and we thought, you know, we somehow need to recognize Obi for everything he does, and because he's always involved in everything to do with safety. And so Ben on his own called the people at Eveready and talked to him. Ben can be pretty influential, and so starting later this year, they're going to change this creature to the Energizer Obi. So you'll see that in advertisements coming out pretty soon. So anyway, so with that as the segue, Obi, you wanted to give some opening remarks about the Florida Aviation Network.
Ron, when you get a little bit older, can y'all hear me? Yeah. Yeah, I can't hear or see, and I have trouble walking, so what do? Say, you're a pilot, okay? You don't need to do all that other stuff. This has been a gift of love. How many were at the last reunion? Hold your hands up higher. I can't see that good either. Okay, Larry, you were there. Yeah. And Diego, you were there. Yeah. At that time, we gave plaques to everybody with the medallion on it. And there's one or two of you who did not get that medallion because you were before or after or something like that. If you would, hold up your hands if you didn't get a medallion. Okay, so Jonathan, so Bob, one of the, we thought we had three somewhere, and Jonathan is one of them. So Bob, you see him over there? He gets the medallion, okay. And like he was talking about the cookies a minute ago, my daughter-in-law, she's probably outside. She's kind of a little camera shy, but anyway, she's out there. She's the one that coordinated the cookies and all that stuff, and Ramona and Angel now help with all the decorations and stuff like that. But all of you, when we called you 3 months ago, was it 3 months ago, Bob, something like that? And we come over here and says, wow, it's changed a lot. You know, the economy's gone up and all that stuff. All of y'all that kicked in are the reason that we're able to do this at all. Because without y'all, it wouldn't work. So it's not just me or the crew or anything. And I do appreciate the crew being here with, see, if you wear a shirt, you got your name on it. New York Dave, and John Tenney over there, and Obi-2 in the back, and Bill Struhl. There he is there. And of course, several of the people on our board are also on the crew. But I was doing some data stuff. You know, Steve used to work for the FAA, so the FAA's got to have data, right? So it's about 80 or 85% of the people who have served on the FAA production studios or the Florida Aviation Network. They make up about 80, 85% of the CFI of the year in this room. So that's kind of impressive too. And like Bob Jex is going to tell you, that's kind of the glue that keeps things going here. But it's without y'all, it wouldn't happen. I just want to say thanks to everybody. Ron, you got it. Come on up here.
Okay, thank you, Obi, and thank you again also to the crew that's helping today, making this all happen. And they spent several hours yesterday setting up all this equipment, making sure we have gaffer tape holding all the cables down and so that we don't trip over them, and setting up speakers and everything. So a lot of work goes into something like this. Next up, I wanted to introduce Diego Alfonso. Diego, when I head up this way. So Diego is a past president of the Florida Association of Flight Instructors, and he wanted to give a few remarks. Please come up, Diego.
Thank you, Ron. Captain / CFI, Robert Raskey. Fellow CFIs, fellow pilots, friends, my wife. I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. Good afternoon. You know, as Ron was introducing me and I was walking over here, I kind of realized that I don't think there is a better place for a pilot to be today than this place. Not only the people around you, your fellow pilots, your fellow CFIs, and we are probably within a stone throw of an airport where we can listen to the noise of the airplanes going in and out. So this is the perfect setup. One of the things I want to share with you is an experience that I had with the CFI. And I think since we're all CFIs, maybe we can, by sharing this with you, maybe we can throw this out there somehow. I was at Showalter Flying Service. For those of you that are new to the area, that's probably one of the oldest FBOs in Orlando, and that's where Atlantic resides right now. And I see a citation pull up to the ramp. And I lived at an airport for the past 50 years. And I always try to, make conversation with the pilots. And so after the citation parks, a little while, I see this young fellow walking in. He had a nice white shirt, epaulets, and all that. And I just said, hey, how you doing? And he says, well, good. And then I said, must feel good to fly that thing. And he looked at me and he says, oh, no. He says, I'm only a CFI. And that really kind of didn't sit well, because what does that mean, that I'm only a CFI? No. You are a CFI, and you are a valuable piece of the machinery. As a matter of fact, I really believe that the flight instructor and the students are the key to the pilot world and to the aviation world. Because think about it for a minute, without them, what do we have? So that's how important CFIs are, and that's how important for CFIs to take care of their students, because without them, it's not going to happen. Now, I'm not implying that everybody has to go outside the box, so to speak, but those of you that remember, let me change that. Let me just give you, and I'll be brief on this. Do I still have the floor? Okay. And it's just a little story that kind of will bring out what I was trying to say before. And it's about the two bricklayers. I walked into a place in building site, and there's two guys working, and I asked one of the guys, I says, what are you doing? And the guy says, me? I'm a bricklayer. I lay bricks. And I get $15 an hour and time and a half for overtime. Then I turned to the other guy and I said, and what are you doing? And he says, me? I'm laying the foundation of the walls that will support the highest steeple in this state. And it will serve as a spiritual beacon to our community. 2 weeks later, I found out the guy lost the job because he was supposed to be building a garage. But the point is that you have to find in that spectrum of how much to do and how little to do, you got to find that place as a CFI where you're going just a little bit extra than the middle. You just can't stay there. It doesn't work. And lastly, I want to, before I do that, Bob, we've known each other for many years. We share the field from many years. And I can't think of a better person to be welcomed to the club as you. And just in closing, I'd like to mention a little thing about Larry, since he is the one that, whose name we all know and share. And whoever had the chance to fly with Larry at any point, you may remember that whenever he was flying and it was ready for takeoff, as the throttles were coming forward, he had a very short phrase, 3 small words. Here we go. So here we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diego. Always inspiring and entertaining. And so It's tough to follow Diego on the podium, Bob Jex, but you're up next, and he's going to tell us a bit about the Federal Aviation Administration FAST Team and GA Awards. Bob Jex.
Thank you, Ron. And Bob, congratulations. It is great to see my mentors, my colleagues, associates, people that I figuratively and often literally look up to. You're all here in this room today. I'm so honored to be here. Let me tell you a little bit about the GA Awards and the company that I work for. It is the happiest FSDO on planet Earth. It is a great place to be. We are very honored to recognize the best among us, the best of the best. The GA Awards are a competitive award process that comes around every year, and we select at the district level the Flight Instructor of the Year, the FAST Team Rep of the Year, and the Aviation Technician of the Year. We had a very, very, very good crop of applicants in this year's round of selections. I hate my job when I have to select one and not select someone else. It is that way, but we think that the people that we've selected this year to go forth have the best chance of winning the national title. After the district level, the selectees that we have will compete at the intermediate level. There are 4 teams within FAST Team. We're in what we call Pink Team, and somehow that's politically correct. We're in Pink Team, which represents 8 different FSDOs. The Pink Team lead is going to select the corresponding winners for CFI of the Year, FAST Team Rep of the Year, and Aviation Technician of the Year. And then the winner will go on to compete at the national level. The national level awardees, their lives have been changed. One of them is right here in this room. We know about Obi. Obi is the 1978 CFI of the Year. Ron, would you come out from behind the curtain there? Raise your hand. You may not know this, but Ron is the 2021 National CFI of the Year. Worth recognizing Ron for the unbelievable work that he has done. Mark Dikorsky, please raise your hand. Your 2017 National Fast Team Rep of the Year. You guys are eating and dining among greatness today. I just want to recognize these people for who they are and what they've done. I'm going to hand off the microphone to you in just a minute, Ron, but I want to say thank you to everybody who put in a package this year. Congratulations to those who were selected. And I want to mention one more thing. You see this guy working the camera right here in center stage? He calls himself New York Dave. His application says David Conrad, and Dave is your Orlando 2022 Fast Team Rep of the Year. Please give Dave a hand as well. Dave, he's so humble, and we're so proud to recognize the good work that he's doing. Ron, I'm about to hand it back over to you. Thanks, everybody, for coming out today. Enjoy the food. Tip your wait staff. No, I'm just kidding. They're already paid. They've paid plenty. But and take good care of the people around you. Fly safe, and I hope to see you out here again next year. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Bob. So when Obi asked me to be a part of this, I thought, okay, right seat, I can do that. I'm used to the right seat. And then all of a sudden he said, no, you're in the left seat, pilot in command today. A little bit different task than I was expecting, but I'm happy and hopefully I'm stepping up for it. So now I have the pleasure of introducing the CFIs of the Year for the past 30 years. It's not going to take 30 years to introduce us all, but I'll try and give you a little snippet about at least some of those of you who are here, and at least mention those who were unable to make it today. So we've got over 40 folks here in the room. This is wonderful, good turnout. A few folks couldn't come, last minute things and the like, and probably some of them still caught in the Orlando traffic in the Disney area. That's very possible in Orlando. So I wanted to mention the CFIs of the Year who are not able to make it here today. And since I don't have them all memorized, I'm going to have to look at the screen as I do this. So we went back as far as 1990. Of course, I mentioned Obie Young in 1978. I'd originally thought Obie was 1903 and that he had taught the Wright brothers, but he corrected me. He said it's 1978. So I want to make sure I have that correction. But beginning in 1990, Charles Abar was the CFI of the Year. In 1992, Larry Enlow was the CFI of the Year. I guess this is before he went to work for the FAA. In 1993, Wayne Sonoya. In 1995, Tommy Savage. Harry Kimberly was named the CFI of the Year in 1997. Steve Brady, who wanted to be here today, but he's recovering from back surgery. Otherwise, he would have been here. I spoke with him a couple of times. He was the CFI of the Year in 1998, and then again in 2002. Janine Kokan, who many of you know as a CFI and a DPE in the Lakeland Winter Haven area, she was the CFI of the Year in 2000. Dan McCulloch won the award in 2001. Roxana Cretu in 2005. And finally, Tom Evans from the Sarasota, Tampa area, he was the CFI of the Year in 2009. And Tom called me and said that he couldn't make it today. He sends his regards. He is at home helping his wife recover from surgery and a hospital stay herself. All right, so that's many of the CFIs that couldn't make it to us today, or for some reason we couldn't get in touch with them. So I wanted to at least recognize them. Now, for those of you who are here, we already mentioned this guy named Mark Dikorsky. And so Mark, again, raise your hand if you would. He's way over there. So Mark, unfortunately his wife couldn't join him today, but Mark is over 10,000 hours and 7,000 hours as a CFI. And what you're going to find with most of these CFIs of the year, they've got a lot of hours of flying, but more than 50% of their hours is as a flight instructor. So a lot of right seat time for all these flight instructors. Mark had his first solo up in the Northeast from Millbrook, New York to North Adams, Massachusetts. A long distance in one of those early moments in his flying. He gets fulfilled today now as a flight instructor watching young adults solo for the first time, and you see probably giving a solo sign-off to one of his students there, and there's Reverend Dikorsky in the lower right, as you can see there. Mark was the 2016 CFI of the Year, both at the district level and at the regional level, as Bob was talking about. The pink team, that's the next level up. And then in 2017, he was the national fast team rep of the year. And so I remember being at Oshkosh when you got that award, Mark. It was wonderful. So it was good that you made it. So Mark is a winner. Diego Afonso and I were not able to connect before this. I saw him this morning, and this is the first I got a chance to. So there's some blanks here that I need to fill in. Diego is a low-time pilot, of course, only 26,000 hours, about 11,000 hours as a flight instructor. And he was telling me about, I didn't get his first solo, but his fulfilling moment is when he was able to make a successful emergency landing. He was working with a candidate as a DPE, and they were flying somewhere in the neighborhood of Sanford, and the engine quit, or at least it was such that they had to make an emergency landing. And so Diego was able to put it down in a horse race track. Yeah, a Cessna 172. Who could have thought you could land one in a horse race track? Diego has done it, so if you're ever interested in doing that, he might be your mentor for doing that. 1999, Diego Afonso. Raise your hand, please, again. Good. FSDO CFI of the Year. All right, moving on. You'll notice that these are not in any chronological order. This is on purpose so that you wouldn't know if I missed anybody. See, 2,000-hour pilot, 1,200 hours of CFI, Jonathan Pelletier. And Jonathan is joined today by Brenna, his wife. Jonathan, if you'd raise your hand, recognize it, okay. His first solo cross-country, Sanford, Florida to Melbourne. And his most fulfilling moment was when he helped a private applicant actually pass his check ride who had previously failed twice with another CFI. So Jonathan is the comeback kid for this guy. He loves flying the Challenger 350, and I think that's what we have in the picture there. No, it's not a Challenger 350. No, it isn't a Challenger. I see that now. And he loves to teach in a Beechcraft Duchess. So, yeah, fellow Beechcraft guy like you. Jonathan Pelletier, the 2019 District CFI of the Year. Jonathan, thank you very much. 1994 came and Mary Jane Wood was selected as the CFI of the Year. Mary Jane is here with Stan. I don't see where you're at. Right there you are. Mary Jane and Stan, thank you for coming. 14,000 hours before she retired, 10,000 of them as a CFI. She, I guess, learned to fly in the Ohio area, and her first solo cross country was going to Canton, Akron-Canton, Ohio, back in 1967. So you're at the Wright brothers level for awards, I imagine, as well. She had a scary moment while flying here in the Orlando area. She was with a student near downtown Orlando when the engine quit, and they landed safely and with minimal damage to the airplane. So we're glad you're still here with us, Mary, and good to have you with us here today. Her favorite plane to fly is Cessna 310, and she was the 1994 FSDO and Regional CI of the Year, Mary Jane Wood. Bob Jex, who you saw just a few moments ago. Bob has an interesting career in aviation. He flew with the U.S. Navy, and he is now retired, a naval aviator, a lieutenant commander now retired. 3,500 hours flying, 2,600 of it with the military, and 2,200 as a CFI. So Bob's got a lot of right seat time. He had a fulfilling moment when one of his students and he were flying along, and they were in the traffic pattern, and someone ahead of them was not making any calls to tell the other traffic where they were, but his student stepped up and not only gave their position report, but also the position report of the aircraft in front of him. So this is one of those where Bob really taught the student not just to think for himself, but think outside of his box for all those around him. His favorite plane to fly, this is good, whatever airplane he's in at the moment. And you know, isn't that the same for all of us probably? What's your favorite airplane? I'm flying today. I don't care what it is. That's my favorite airplane. But when he's teaching, he likes Piper Seminoles for a multi-engine aircraft and a Piper Archer for the single-engine aircraft. The 2004 CFI of the Year, Bob Jex. Ed Comiskey, a two-time winner of the CFI of the Year. Ed began flying early, soloed at age 16, private pilot's license at age 17. He's had a number of significant achievements, particularly with the Cessna Corporation. He was a Cessna authorized instructor for G1000 panels shortly after they came on the market, and also an authorized instructor for the Cessna TTX after they acquired that aircraft. And Ed is a founding member of the Cessna Pilot Center Advisory Committee. His favorite airplane to fly, looks like it's Cessna's, right? And he is a designated pilot examiner and has been since 2018. He was the 2014 District and Regional CFI of the Year, and then a repeat as the District CFI of the Year in 2018. Ed Comiskey and Susan. Where are you, Ed? There he is on the far side over there. Richard Funchen. 2008 was his year to be CFI of the Year. Rich, 6,500 hours, 4,500 hours as a CFI. His first solo cross country, also in Florida, Opelika to Vero Beach, which is near where he lives now. His memorable moment was an engine failure while giving spin training in a Cessna 150 Aerobat. Obviously, you were successful, Rich, since you're here. We'd love to see that. His favorite airplane to fly, a sport cruiser, and his favorite airplane to give instruction. You notice it's not a Cessna 150 anymore, it's a Cessna 172. Rich Funchen, the 2008 District CFI of the Year. Rich Funchen over there, raise your hand. And Larry Wakefield. Larry is joined with his wife, Margaret, today. Thank you for coming, Larry and Margaret. 8,000-hour pilot, 4,100 plus as a CFI. He's also been a simulator instructor with an impressive record of hours in a simulator, mostly in helicopters. And his favorite airplane to fly, fixed wing, is a King Air 90 and an SK 92 helicopter. So he works with wings that are fixed and wings that go round and round. His favorite airplane for instruction is a Piper PA-28. Larry Wakefield, the 2003 CFI of the Year. Larry. Ernie Strange wasn't able to be with us today. Ernie was the 1991 District CFI of the Year. He's a longtime CFI and DP in the Jacksonville area. He is soon moving with his wife and family to the Philippines. And the last bullet there, I wanted to point out the pictures. On the left there, that's Ernie and his granddaughter, Ayala. And on the right, that is Ernie, his wife, and their son, Zeke. Tell me Ernie's not an optimist. Ernie Strange, unable to be with us today, but recognized nevertheless. Ernie. And then this guy, I'm a little bit embarrassed to introduce him. I'm a low-time pilot compared to these other folks here, 8,500 hours and 5,000 as a CFI, but notice the trend again. CFIs of the year seem to have a whole lot of instructional time in their total time. My first solo was a 51 nautical mile jaunt from Fort Worth, Texas to Gainesville, Florida, and I swear I got lost 3 times. I didn't have a magenta line to fly back then, but it was scary. My most memorable moment was after I became a CFI, my first student was my wife, Barbara, who has joined me here today. Barbara, you need to at least raise your hand. There we go. That's always dicey, giving instruction between spouses, but we worked it out, and it worked okay, good. And then a few years ago, Barbara bought a Beechcraft Bonanza and hired me as her pilot. Am I a lucky guy or what? Yeah, I think so. My favorite airplane to give instruction in is a P Baron. And I was the district and regional CFI back in 2017, and then 2021, I was lucky to be selected the National CFI of the Year. Steve Moore is with us. Steve, there we are, Steve. And Becky, thank you for joining us today. Steve, 6,000-hour pilot, 5,000 as an instructor. His first solo cross-country back in Ohio, Barber's Airfield in Alliance to Mansfield, Ohio. So that was his first solo cross-country. And like so many CFIs, he had a memorable moment that was an emergency, and his was an emergency landing in a cornfield soon after he became a CFI. And obviously you learned something from that, and no more emergency landings since then, Steve, or did you have, that's it? That's one and done. Good for you. His favorite airplane to fly is a Cirrus, and his favorite airplane for instruction looks like he's into Cessna High Wings. So Steve Moore, the CFI of the Year for 1996. Steve Moore. He doesn't eat corn anymore, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of sworn off corn with it. But yeah, moved to Florida. And 2023, we have now a brand new CFI of the Year, and you've already seen him and probably know him, Bob Raskey. He's still working on building time. He's at 26,500 hours and still building time. He's 5,800 hours as a CFI. Bob's first solo was when he was stationed at Fort Rucker working during the day, the only time he had to do flight training, and his first solo was at night. How many of you were your first solo was at night? Only one hand goes up in this room, probably. Bob Raskey. His memorable moment, Bob has many hours flying for the U.S. Air Force in F-16s and the like, and it was during the first Gulf War in 1990-91 that Bob was on station in Iraq, and he and his wingman were flying along doing a training session, I think, training for patrols, and they got a call from an AWACS plane, you know, the high-altitude radar airplane that was calling in strike forces and the like. And they said to Bob and his wingman, hey, we've got some special forces that are pinned down. We need you to come in and give them some close air support. Bob recognized that both he and his wingman were low on fuel, so he called his wingman and said, here's the deal, what do you think? And his wingman and Bob said, we're all in. So they went and did their duty, got the special forces out of their difficult time, and then went back up and hit the refueling tanker just as their fumes were about to run out. So Bob, thanks for making it back for us. His airplane to fly that's the favorite is an F-16, and he gave a lot of instruction in a T-38. This is Bob in his first instructional flight in the T-38 there you see. Bob Raskey, the 2023 District CFI of the Year, Bob Raskey and his wife Karen. So you see Bob all dressed up there receiving an award in his Air Force dress blues, and then in the next picture below is his wife Karen. They're both pilots for United Airlines, so here is the picture of Bob and Karen in their home office at 777 Cockpit. Good to have you with us. All right, and now we're up for the, Bob Jex, back to you for the CFI of the Year plaque and award.
Bob, come on up on stage, please. What a great honor it is to be recognizing one of our most dedicated and loyal volunteers. He's been with us. There's nobody in this room that doesn't know Bob, that doesn't know his long legacy of volunteer service. That means something. They don't know how much of a mentor he has been, perhaps, at all levels of aviation. He's not working just at the professional airline stage. He's helping other people to get in. One of the things that impressed me the most is how he has been mentoring returning military aviators to get involved in professional aviation on the civil side. It's a wonderful thing to know how much he's doing in outreach, whether we're watching him or not. The world is watching what he does, and he's making a great difference. I'm so honored. And I want to ask you something right now. How come you never put in for this award before? He has put it together a package that we think is going to go all the way to the national level. We know it has the best chance of all the packages that we saw this year at the district level. I would not be surprised, not at all, and I will be the first one in line when Bob gets selected as the National CFI of the Year. I will be out there at Oshkosh to shake his hand personally out there when the FAST team gives him that award. It sure is my hope. I'll be on my knees tonight. Karen, I will be praying for Bob's success. He's already helped so many other people be successful, and what an honor it is to hand him this recognition of the CFI of the Year. The administrator and the National FAST Team Director take great honor in presenting the 2023 District Level CFI of the Year Award to Robert Vincent Raskey. Congratulations. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Rob, to Ron. But before I do, Bob, do you have any remarks you would like to make right now? This is a wonderful time. I want to hear what he has to say. Go right ahead.
I'm going to make it the end.
Okay.
I'll tie it together.
With that, I'm going to get off my soapbox. This makes a heck of a soapbox, by the way, and I'll hand it back over to Ron. Ron, sir, back over to you.
Okay. So stay here, please, Bob. So the next up is the Larry Enlow Award. And Obie is going to make that presentation. Obie Young.
You know, I never do anything myself. Always have to have help, so come back up here, Rod. All right. One space to the left? No, in front of the, there you go. Move over this way.
My grandma
That's
was
what you
like
get
this,
for
too,
being
when I
a
was little.
director.
Always proposing the show.
Okay, you stand here so they can hear you. This is an award that's near and dear. Can y'all hear me? Okay, that's near and dear to me and to Bob. So I can't say it. I'm going to ask.
Okay, so this not only honors you, Bob Raskey, but Larry Enlow, who commemorates his passion for flight and devotion to excellence in all aspects of aviation, wherein he inspired and enabled others to achieve and sustain the highest standards of professional performance. Mr. Enlow's unswerving personal code of strict integrity and loyalty to principles infused others with spirit, dedication, moral responsibility, ensuring outstanding operational guidance for future generations. His legacy lives on in our next generation of aviators and through the likes of you. Robert Raskey distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the FAA, Orlando Flight Standards District Office, and has been selected as the Certified Flight Instructor of the Year for 2023. During this period, the exceptional leadership and dedicated efforts demonstrated by Mr. Raskey significantly shaped the development of aviation professionals, resulting in superior education and quality of airmanship throughout the aviation industry. Inspiring dedication to mentoring our next generation of aviators reflects his altruistic leadership approach. He developed aviation career pathways in civilian and military aviation that, along with his inspiring insight and instruction, resulted in major contributions to the effectiveness and successfulness of our air transportation system and its unparalleled safety record. The distinctive accomplishments of Robert Raskey reflect great credit upon himself and the greater aviation community. He exemplifies leadership, excellence, and profession. Mr. Raskey, the winner of the Larry Enlow Award.
Hold that, hold that. Put your hand over here too. Get it? Get it? Okay.
Good.
Take this and sit it back over there. Ramona, I guess we were in family reunion when they called. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. Excuse me. Talking about Larry and talking about all of you. And like I've talked to this young man here, knock off at 5 o'clock. Let's go to Hooters and drink a beer and eat a wing. Because it's too late now. So all of you, take time to smell the roses. Because life is fleeting. And every day I think about him and miss him. And you know what I'm saying. But anyway, congratulations, young man. Thank you all for supporting today. And now I think we have remarks from the honoree, right? Okay.
Thank you all, and that was a very inspirational moment and recommendation of the impact Larry had over time. Make me get a little teary-eyed there for a second. But and on that award too, and that was created back in the day, because I was one of the part of the team that created that plaque, and Terry had a big influence because she wrote the words for the citation. And that was a very memorable moment, and over the years we've been presenting that, and it's nice to see it come back, COVID years aside, bringing back the Larry Enlow Award and the citation accompaniment there. So he was, for me, he was a mentor. We went to the same flight standards class in Oak City back in the day to become young DPEs. And also on that plaque, one of his favorite beloved machines was the DC-3. And I had the honor to fly DC-3. I wanted to get a type rating of DC-3, and he did the check ride for me over New Smyrna Beach. And it was a fun event. It was a little older DC-3 with a couple of lights flashing and things going on in the middle. And Larry's right in the back, goes, well, you see that light over there? But it was a good moment, check ride passed, and we moved on. So definitely great respect on that, and that's a continued award for the CFIs in the future and the past coming up there. I want to just, some recognition's already been given out there, but first of all, I want to recognize, Obi and the team, Obi Young team for putting all these events together, Obi-1, Obi-2 family. They've been around for a while, and it's always an inspiring event for that to happen. The FAA, Bob Jex, you're always there, rock solid, Commander, and you just make a big influence and continue to do so. Because without this kind of energy between these folks, we would not be here today. It takes a lot of work and prep to do that. The FSDO office, the folks behind that to support these awards and things like that, the FAA FSDO 15 and going up there, big supporters of, you could say, the happy office, which promotes this and says, let's go out and do it on a Monday to do it. So regional FAA, my man here, all the supporters, all the supporters behind the scene work in the events, and so it's just very appreciated there. So some of the recognition also too is I got nominated. I used to do these awards for years and presenting them and doing. So I got the call one day, and a friend of mine who I was teaching, Alejandro Manila, out there. And he was kind of a Special Forces C-130 guy, and I've known him from some certain things we do with DC and Special Forces and actions. And he was coming out of the military and wanted to go into the trenches in the CFI world. So this past year, this summer, I told him to come on down from DC and spent a couple weeks there to work with getting his CFI initial and all the ratings up to speed so we can transition to the CFI world. He took his check ride initial CFI with Rob Laskey, DP in Jacksonville, passed the first time, which is a good thing. And now Alejandro found out about this award from somehow there, and because he was talking to Rob or something, but then he was the one who nominated me for this award. And I said, okay, because I never really thought about applying for the award per se over the years, but so I was just happy to do that. And then he gave me a nice recommendation letter there. And along to that, on that award process, was some other inspiring folks who were allowed like 3 or 4 letters from people. Mark Baker, the president of AOPA, near and dear friend of mine. I'm on his board, presidential board, to do what's called the next generation of aviation STEM and high school programs. And so we're doing a big initiative and developed AOPA team, these high school aviation STEM curriculums to put around the country in all the high school levels to promote the next gen to be pilots, right? And so far we've succeeded that in about 600 high schools. And Mark did a nice letter too, and that was a very wonderful thing. The third letter, one of the third letter, I'll get to the fourth one. The third letter is from James Bro, National Aviation STEM Program Manager up in DC. Jim, good friend of mine over the years, he's the FAA guy in charge in getting this next generation of hopefully motivated kids in high school out the gate with a pathway, right? That's our biggest problem in high school nowadays, is kind of where do we go next out of high school? His program's very good. I work with him. He did my third letter, which is very respectful and thankful for him to doing that. And finally, the coolest letter was a young man named Grayson Pertania, 18, all of 18 years old. So what did Grayson achieve by 18? So Grayson is the son of a good friend of mine, fellow United pilot, Meredith Robbins. And ever since he was a young kid, I mentored him, like join the Civil Air Patrol. Have you ever thought about flying? What are you gonna do with your life? Up until this day. So he progressed and became interested in flying. This young man in the past year went from 0 to CFI, IIMAI, around the age 18, turning 19, here, local. And so I flew with him. I have a Cherokee 6 and a Piper Aztec, and I just flew around the clock with him. We just achieved this goal. And then next to one of his biggest achievements beside that is, where do I go to college? He was talking about maybe FSU, and I said, hey, why don't you go hire a brilliant kid? Applies to MIT, gets hired. He's with MIT now. And he's the chief of the flying club of MIT. And he's out there just always pictures like, yeah, I'm at MIT, but guess what I'm really doing? Flying with everybody here. So the inspiration was the flying part, right? Which goes to this concept, why is everybody's here? So that was some of the background and gratefulness to get here for me. And now here's some stories, right? And I'll tell you a little bit of my story, because I love stories about life, right? Everybody has a story in this room. Today's a story. So in me, like flying-wise, for me was like, I never really wanted to do it. At age 18, no, not even, maybe 17, I was in high school, Long Island, New York. Any New Yorkers here? Long Island, Holy Family High School. But by the time I was in freshman, junior year, I dropped out of high school. So I'm a high school dropout. And technically never got a graduation from a high school, but I did the GED thing. But as I was roving out there in those worlds, typical of some of the patterns going on today, kids get lost after high school. I go ahead and I'm wandering, I'm doing all these things, keeping busy, making money, very entrepreneurial in many ways. And then one day I come home and I see on this table this little clipping out of the New York Newsday, right? New York Newsday. And it said, have you ever thought about being a pilot? Join the Army National Guard. Now I'm 18, high school dropout, right? First they said, no interest, Mom. Thanks, not into it. So I said, okay. She kept pestering me. She's an Irish woman, Put it back there. So then, I did, okay, I'm gonna go check it out. So I went to MacArthur Airport, Long Island, and there it is, the Army Guard, 18. Guy sits, the recruiter sits in front of me and says, hey, you're really interested in this? Not really, but what do we got going here, First thing he gives me is a job offer. Well, we got this opening to be a cook, for the Army National Guard, And I was like about to walk out. And then he goes, no, wait a second, young man, let me give you something else here. Oh, how about helicopter mechanic, right? Helicopter mechanic. I said, yeah, because I was working on cars as a kid. I said, I might be interested in that. So indeed, I signed up and went to boot camp in Fort Knox, Army days, they were tough back then. And then Fort Rucker, which was part of that story, to become an aviation helicopter mechanic, right? So here I am, just wrenching, doing good, scoring well. I was so good at automobiles. I was so good about wrenching those UEs. And then one day, Warrant Officer Bob Bazai, to this day, we're talking about 30 years ago, right? More? 40? 77? I don't know, that's the time. I don't want to add the numbers. But says, his warrant officer comes up to me, he walked away and said, Bob, man, I see every day you're working, you're showing up early, doing your thing. Have you ever thought of, there's that question again, right? Becoming a pilot. I said, no. He goes, what? We got an aero club here in Fort Rucker. Why don't you come over here on Saturday? So I do. I go over there on Saturday and takes him up on the first ride in the 172. And I go, this is kind of fun. I'm digging it. And then, like, I was bit, right? So then he said, hey, I want to get my private license. He gave me the rules, right? 40 hours of this, da-da-da, day and night, the whole thing. And I only had about a month left before Rucker. So basically he said, I'm in. So basically he got me training a bit. We always have to work. I had to go there like after hours, right? When the sun was setting. He'd work me in that sunset period, got me to a safe enough part. Then he started clearing me solo. So I did most of my solos, most of my cross countries at night because I had to do them, and then some stuff on the weekends. And then that was all the night training. And then finally at the end of 30 days, I got the FAA examiner, local Alabama guy. Take the private pilot check ride, on the way. Went back home now with a whole new perspective, right? Whole new perspective. Finished the high school GED, which I had done. Signed up for Embry-Riddle, ROTC, trajectory takes off, right? So that's that question I'm going to say to everybody here, and you probably should see some hands. And I often ask this when I'm like doing talks, different places, right, Mike? Has anyone in here ever thought about being a pilot? Raise your hand. Well, good. That's a deal. I was hopefully so. That means because you really wanted to be, right? Or you're thinking about one of the two. And the power of that's like a story, and the questions of that, how you want to be a pilot to me has always been almost religious from that very day of a life-changing moment where I was heading down not so good path maybe to this like other world, right? And this other world has been inspirational. So in that change, then I became the one like trying to promote that heavily, religiously. So, and these stories around here, some in the room, is like in the local community, the aviation communities, Vision of Flight. Mike, could you stand for a second here? This gentleman, Mike McKenzie, also a famous musician from New York. Back, he's got stories to tell. So he runs the Vision of Flight in Orlando. And he created it, set it up, funded it, got it off the gate, and works over there in Orlando. Own the airplane. How many planes? You got the one. This guy trains all of these kids, disadvantaged mostly in Orlando neighborhoods, to say, have you ever wanted to be a pilot, right? And this guy here, just to mention, have a seat there, Mike. Sit down. But so this guy, when I found and met him and stuff like that, I was so inspired for him. I said, you got me. I'm all in. What can I do? Flying, people, talks. We just did a recent talk. And when I go and give these talks, Vision of Flight, I see all these kids out there. And they were pretty much, before high school, some graduating high school mix, but they will remind me of me back in the day when I had no clue, right? But the clue began when Mr. McKenzie says, hey, another pathway here, because you save people from pretty dark worlds in many places. Disadvantaged, no families, nothing. So that inspires me. It brings back the memory to pay it forward. And so, and his thing here is very good. So we just had a class meeting. You sit with these kids, but when you interact kids from different worlds and different backgrounds, they buy into it. They see you have interest. They see, what can I do? And we try to get them flights and going and get them started on that. So Mike's made a major difference in this world here, community-wise. Anybody know Barbara Phillips? Barbara Phillips, right? How amazing is she? BAA, Chapter 74, the Orlando Youth Aviation Community Center. So I work a lot with her, too, in a local community as part of that paying forward. So Barbara, she does Young Eagle flights. And every year, it's always like, okay, we got the flights coming this March. We got to round up some pilots and things, And it's always a struggle because weather sometimes, pilot availability on planes. So I have an Aztec Cherokee 6, 1967 models, because I like the year 67, beautiful models. And if I can't fly them, then I go ahead and make sure I get my pilots. Like this last time here, a JetBlue pilot and another pilot take my airplanes from Daytona and go over there and give all the kids rides, But the pictures and the looks and the faces when they're going out there doing those flight plans, and that one moment, a good percentage of them, like in your case, say, I want to get out of this whole thing I'm doing here and become a pilot in aviation. Inspirational, right? And then, of course, one of the biggest inspirations, besides Karen, which comes to the end there, but my own son and daughter. You know, like the kids, when you had kids, one of the first things you do when you try to, like, if they're not self-motivated, you try to say, hey, why don't you become a doctor? Why don't you become this? Why don't you do that? And usually the word is no, 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 because they like to say no. No is like before anything else. So my son and daughter, when they were in high school, I wanted them to like become pilots naturally. So I said, hey, would you want to become a pilot? No, hell no, right? So my son, eventually I got him worked into it. You know, he went to the academy, actually, Air Force Academy. And then he was there for 2 years, decided maybe I just want to go into medicine, which is good. He's in med school right now. However, you know what he did? He got that private pilot license eventually. So he did that goal, and he's flying a pilot, and now it's going to come around together down the road. But my daughter, Savannah, so Savannah's very interesting. So Savannah said hell no about 5 times, right? Like absolutely not. So she's 18 in high school. Critical year, right, as most know. Either drop out like me or you find a pathway, or some not so. So, you know, I said about the Guard, the National Guard, and I was a Guard guy too. So I had to convince the whole family, mom, dad, grandparents, everybody around that says, hey, I want Savannah to join the National Guard. Hell no. She's going to die. Get killed in combat, right? We get all this no stuff. So she did me a little favor. She says, okay, Dad, I know you want me to do this, but let's go. So we visited the Guard unit, right? And this was in Utah, Salt Lake City, KC-135 unit. Go in there, and again, that whole experience I had as a recruiter. And they go, what do you want to be? This? She was too young to be a pilot. So they slam right in front of, coincidentally, I didn't coerce them, mechanic. So she goes, yeah, I want to be a mechanic. That sounds cool. So she did, joined the Guard at 18, and here she is today, 28, and she's Montgomery, Alabama's first female F-35 fighter pilot in training. In training, you know? It goes to that same memory moment, like, have you ever thought about being a pilot? And we just went to her graduation. She was not in a good pathway. She was #1 in her advanced Air Force base training. Like, and she's in a competitive fighter class with a bunch of men, right? And you know, one woman, you know, but she did it. She not only did it, but she won the 4 awards. The most coolest award was her fellow classmates, men and mostly men, and because she became her nickname. You know, we get nicknames as fighter pilots, right? Stenographer. And why she got the Steno nickname is because she was creating all the guides and checklists and all for her fellow students, and just made them like appear because she's very good at that. So they just voted her that like you're #1. So now she's in, I flew T-38s and she flew T-38s. So when I flew F-16, she got to ride an F-16. So it was kind of cool stuff going on there, you know. So, but she's now in a way going to Arizona for a year, you know, for F-35 school, and she's done well so far. So in those moments, right, it comes down to that beginning of how you are as far as what are you going to be, and going to be a pilot, you know. So I'm very grateful here today, and going forward, as you are too, a great team, go out there and just pay it forward as much you can that you're already doing. And often, I'm sure everybody here does that, like, have you want to be a pilot, consider aviation an opportunity, because it made a difference for me, and it'll make a difference for many. So honored, inspired by all, and you have a wonderful day. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.